1935, and I am sitting on our terrace in Freehold, New Jersey. I plan to make videotapes of some films which I made more than 60 years ago. Here is a little background which may help to understand the why and wherefore of these films. Upon graduating from Iowa State University in June 1928, I went to New York City with a job at Bell Telephone Laboratories. By summer 1929, I had bought a Kodak 16mm movie camera and learned to use it. Another employee at BTL had made the acquaintance of a girl who lived near my parents in rural Illinois. He was driving to Illinois and offered me a ride. I made pictures during that trip, but they don't seem to be of any particular interest today. Therefore, this tape will begin with things as I found them in Fulton County, Illinois that year. Several vacations were spent in that area, taking pictures of farm activities and relatives. I married in July 1935 and brought Muriel to Illinois by auto. This presentation ends with that year.
Okay, here we are. This is the Hedrick place, and the animals are sort of coming to life as we look around the farm. And my mother comes out to say hello. And 4 days later I had something of a beard. And the mustache to boot. The title said "Lost One Razor." It was upside down. And now, as a novice bicycle rider, I'm trying it out. The bicycle belonged to my Uncle Ross, who stayed with us occasionally, and he left his bike around, which we all had to try out. And I had never had much practice. My dad thought he was pretty good at it, so he decided to show us up. Dad's name is Dallas Lundry. And he does reasonably well, I would say, around the farmyard. And he uses the coaster brake. Okay, here's the various and sundry things that I thought were worth taking movies of that summer. And this is a good look at the house. We called it the Hedrick place because it just from the names of the people who lived there before we bought it. In 1916, I believe we bought it. Colts, young colts, and cattle grazing. Yeah, well, not grazing, just laying around, I guess. And that, I think, is a bull. Yeah, he's got a ring in his nose. They kind of necessary in order to be able to lead them around. They can get pretty vicious. And jerseys, I believe. Jerseys are, yeah, I believe they're jerseys. chickens in the hen house. And there's only one thing, well, a dog has to explore the water of the local creek. And Dad was rather proud of these two horses. I think he got a ribbon for them at one of the local fairs. I don't know. I don't remember which one. Buddy. Buddy was the dog's name. And the whole gimmick was that taffy was so sticky that once he got it in his mouth and chewed on it, he couldn't get rid of it. He sat there for a long time trying to get rid of that taffy. I think he finally got rid of it, but it was something of a chore. Didn't stop him from coming back for more, though. And, yeah, Dad wanted to teach the calf something or other, and I don't know what he was supposed to teach the calf, but I think the calf had a little more energy than he did before he got through. It's a very young calf. Possibly 6 weeks old, something like that. It's getting its exercise, that's for sure. A little bit more than my dad wanted to take on. And some horses out in the field. And all coming up for a drink. They had a water trough out front there, and when they got thirsty, they came up and took a drink. Here's a bigger calf. Dad. Here's a bigger calf. Dad wants to see how he will work out with a saddle. A western saddle on a calf. That should be fun. Mother holds the calf while Dad tightens the girts. And here we go. All we need now is somebody to ride that calf. Well, somebody's getting a little exercise out of this escapade anyway. And now we're going to the Soldiers and Sailors Reunion in Cuba. So here we are at the Soldiers and Sailors Reunion. And it probably was Memorial Day. And they managed to get a lot of politicians to come out and make speeches and tell them how wonderful they were and all that sort of thing. And this is the big affair of the year, Harvest Home. This was taken at the Zion Lutheran Church, which is the one my mother grew up in. And she tells me that they often had the sermons in German. They cook outdoors for a big, big feast. Everybody goes in and eats like mad and pays a very nominal price for the food. Music and games. This is a typical entertainment. The entertainers are two of my high school buddies, Delbert Halley playing fiddle and Royal Halley on piano. And I believe the girl who's turning music is one of the Helly's sisters. And the fellow on the accordion, I don't know him. He came after I had left there. Horseshoe pitching, of course, is an active endeavor. Lundry Beam is throwing the horseshoes, and he manages to miss. But my granddad is going to show him how. My granddad and that ringer. And my granddad throws again, a ringer. 6 points for 2 throws. That's my Uncle Ross. And part of the harvest home, they sold pop and stuff at stands outside and made a little money for the church. And sometimes they, when they got all fully fed up, all they did was sit around and talk. And there was a lot of conversation. Here we are. And corn is growing in the field in behind. So it's early fall yet. The women have a little visit too. And this is my star of the picture taking day. Well, this is thrashing, and there's 2 men feeding sheaves into the separator. So that's a pretty big engine, pretty big machine. Have to throw them in head first. And this is the steam engine, which is driving the whole thing. This was a big brute. Coal burning, putting out lots of smoke. There goes coal in. Soft coal. This is a soft coal country around here. And the thing is purring away. And here's the good old smoke. And in the distance, you can see the sheaves are going in. And straw is coming out at the far end, of course. And there should be some wheat coming out of here. Yeah, there it is. Every time the machine accumulates a half a bushel, it dumps it. Here's the measuring device, half bushel, dump. It counts every half bushel. And now this is a little bit later on. This is a tractor-driven thrashing rig, and I think that's Joyce Tompkins standing there in front of the machine. This is practically a one-man operation, but the separator is smaller. It's only one man feeding the sheaves into it. But I meant the whole crew for the thrashing is almost one man, because once you start that gasoline engine going, it runs for quite a long time by its own. There comes the straw out onto the straw pile. And a few years later, you went out into the field with a combine, and the combine cuts the straw, cuts the wheat, let's say, and thrashes it right on the spot. So, one man could do this. There's some spectators riding up on top there. I don't think they're necessary to the operation. Yeah, here's the man who does the work, keeps keeps it running. And here it is. They're cutting the hay right down, sweep it back onto the, and here's the finished grain coming out into a wagon. So that's how the thing has progressed since the time when I was running around and shocking grain out in the field. That's another shot of it just opening up a field for the combine. Oh, this fellow should have been back there with the steam engine. He was the lad who, yeah, he's the water boy, and that's Jim Henderson taking a drink out of the jug now. And, okay, now we're going to give you a little idea of how they prepared chicken dinners, and or how my mother and my aunt prepared it. That bingo, that's number one chicken. And here goes number two chicken. Bingo. And so they put it out there. And that pail is filled with boiling hot water. So you dip them good and plenty, and then the feathers come off rather easily. And the feathers go into the coal bucket. That's the bucket that brings in the soft coal during the winter time when you want to keep the house warm. And we finally get all the feathers pulled off that we can get hold of. And then the one last little touch. Well, there they are, defeathered. But there's one more step. With a burning newspaper, you singe off the little feathers that you couldn't get otherwise. And then you cut it up. Cut up the chickens, salt, and flour. And after a short time in the skillet, it comes out as fried chicken, like that. Then we go out in the yard to make some ice cream. That's my mother turning the freezer. My aunt is pouring the ice in. Looks like Dad has been looking at the underneath side of the car trying to do something. So you churn this thing for maybe a half hour, and then you're ready to take it off. Now the ice, when it was put in there, had a lot of salt thrown in with it to speed up the freezing process. So you have to be very careful when you take this off so you don't get salt into the ice cream. And there it is. Dish it out. Yeah, my dad gets a piece. And I get some to eat too. So everybody has some ice cream. I'm not sure what we do after we eat the ice cream. Oh, okay. Okay. That's my dad cutting a watermelon. Seems like we go for that rather frequently in the summertime. And this is a different year, by the way. Dad was wondering what I'm doing with the camera. And now we're at my granddad's farm out in the barnyard. And a little leisure domain with the camera. My Uncle Ross is throwing horseshoes. And my dad is catching them. Ha ha ha. Laurel throws a 1, 2. And that's Ralph Mason. And that's Zella Mason. I think she's fixing peaches. Looks like. My grandmother standing behind her. And that's Faye Smith and her daughter Donna Lou. Donna is a real star in her own right here. A real cutie. Cat's almost as big as she is. And grandmother comes out for some water. And the way you get water out here is to pump it. Now we're out in Richmond, near Richmond, Indiana. And, Harry, my grandparents' son, Harry, and I think his wife at that time was Ebby. That's Ebby on the ground. And back in Fulton County again. I'm not sure who these youngsters are. I think it's before we had a youngster to add to the party, so I'm not sure who it is. It looks like Bessie holding that youngster. And my mother, Carrie Alice, and Dad, Mother, and Emma. Going out to the car. I think we're going off on to visit some relatives at this point. Yes, this is Vera Rock. We caught her a little bit unexpectedly. And, little glitch in the camera there. Had to stop and fix it. And Vera didn't feel she was right for the camera, but we finally got her back out there to be recorded. And then I think her mother comes along. Oh, that's her brother Lester, yeah. Lester Rock. He spent some of World War II in East Africa, North Africa, I guess. And that's Vera's mother. And her father. Henry was the oldest of my mother's siblings. And Vera again. And it looks like we're out in the grapevine somewhere. And yeah, the women are getting ready to go home from this little picnic. They have but the men don't seem to be in any hurry. And now this is out at my grandmother Rock's farm. And my Uncle Art is walking around among the chickens, and the dog and the rooster are having a little... The rooster is really chasing the dog at this point. And my Uncle Art is wandering around there. And Aunt Emma is doing a little hand wash there. And well, another chicken is going to bite the dust here. He's using a double-bladed axe to cut his head off now. And I assume you all heard the expression, he's jumping around like a chicken with its head cut off. Well, that's what they're talking about right there. And my aunt at her home in Canton. Now we're at my Uncle Charlie's. This is Charles Rock, my mother's brother. My dad and his wife, Emily, I believe, and Vida and Merle. Two of their children. The third wasn't there at this party, apparently. And my aunt. Now, this is at the. This is in Peoria. And it had to be 1937 because Donald is 1 year old, and my mother was intent on getting 4 generations picture here. But since her mother was dead, we had to settle for her mother's sister, and Aunt Maggie, she called her. Maggie Rosenstengel, I think. And her 3 daughters. Okay. And my dad and my mother want to put on a little something for the camera. And me with my mustache. Yeah. Did we see this before? I have a feeling I put that on the tape once before. Oh well. And this is the Landaus. I lived with Mrs. Landau for 2 years while I went to college in Galesburg, Illinois. Her granddaughter, Barbara. And Mrs. Landau directly. So, well, haymaking has got a little bit more mechanized than it was in the days when I was there. Here's a tractor pulling a wagon, which in turn is pulling a hay loader. It simply picks the hay up from the ground and runs it up to the 2 men working on top of the wagon. So that's really a 3-man operation right now. And when they get the hay loaded, they're going to take it into the barn and unload it. And here we are. That is hard rock pulling out the hay fork. Also a new device from the one I remember from a long time ago. This thing will pick up almost a half a load of hay at one grasp. There it goes. And Howard is holding onto a trip rope, which he will yank when it gets to the place where somebody tells him to trip it. And there goes another one. A huge load. And this is the motive power, what's pulling that stuff up. That's Howard's wife Hilda, with 2 mules, and they pull until somebody shouts stop, and bingo. So she turns the mules around and comes back and gets all ready to do it all over again as soon as Howard loads up another fork full of hay. There it goes, there he goes. There we go. And bingo. And that's haymaking. And a little cornfield here. Corn is tasseled out. Whoa, have to stop there. Okay, this is 1937, and we brought our son Donald back to Illinois to show him off to his grandparents. And there we are, my mother, Donald, and Muriel, and the dog. And my dad tries his hand at entertaining his grandson. His watch, how about that? Give him the most valuable thing you own. Let him play with it. Okay. My dad, my mother, Donald, and Muriel in the front yard. And I think this is at the Hedrick place, my granddad, Donald's granddad. My granddad, Donald's great-grandfather. That's Perry Lundry, James Perry Lundry. And Dad still thinks that his butts is one of the nicest playthings for Donald to have. And the usual, the bath. Daily ritual. And this is the way we do it down on the farm. So I think it's kind of an interesting thing to go through. And that takes care of that little chore. Now we gotta start riding horses early on, you know. You can't wait till you're grown up to learn to ride a horse. You start when you're 1 year old. Huh? And walking is still a little bit of a chore, but I just will try it out. And getting acquainted with the pump. Pump a little water for the horses. Yeah, it makes a pretty good play house or play pen or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, now Donald is free to roam around the yard wherever he wants to go. And an old rug which we brought out just to keep out of the dirt, keep the people out of the dirt. And he gets acquainted with Buddy. And Muriel wants to show how clever she is with the dog. Well, she got him. He bit on that one. I don't know who's having more fun, Muriel or the dog, but pretty good sit-up for a dog. And finally Donald wants to climb up on the porch, and somebody's always interfering with his progress. Finally, he overcomes all the opposition, or he gets them tired out. I don't know which, but he finally got up there and was allowed to climb around. And he didn't quite make it. So that's what happened to little boys that climb around like that. He's smart enough to know his way out of the dilemma anyway, and he finally came back for a final try, and this time he made it. There we go. I like that. Okay, and I think that is the end of our vacation. We're all coming out to put things in the car. Looks like my mother prepared a little food for the trip back. And so we say goodbye. And this is another vacation in Illinois. Ronald and Diane and Muriel. And this is another riding horse. I believe this one belonged to Laurel, and Dad was just keeping him. Including all the tack that goes with it. And then gets her first horseback ride. And now we're having a little birthday party for Donald. Donald is 5 years old. Getting all little goodie baskets ready and everything. Yep. And here's Arla Jean coming to the party with a gift. And doesn't quite know what to make of it. Looks like it's a photograph album. My mother comes up with something. Carrie Alice. My dad. There's the real cash. My Emma Rock. And here comes the cake. Okay, let's see if he knows what to do with that knife. Oh yes, we gotta light the candles. There we are. I'm sure my mother baked the cake. Well, somebody told him to turn it over anyway. And well, there's a very gracious host here, passing the cake around. And finally one for himself. And everybody gets busy eating. Taking ice cream. There's a close-up of Arla Jean. And Diane. And the residue after everybody has eaten all he can. Muriel starts to blow up the balloons for the children. Yeah. And Ralph gets into the act trying to help Donald put together a model airplane, which was a bit fancy for this age group. Okay, now we go to the real airplane. This is my cousin Berlin Lundry, who was just getting into the hobby of flying, which eventually became a business for him. This was at a field out west of Fayette, and he developed this into a business eventually. Said he hoped nobody from the aviation authorities saw him doing that. And Muriel is going for a ride. Yep, take off. There we go. And hello, wild blue yonder. And Donald and Diane are looking at it, trying to figure out what it's all about, I guess. One of these farms belongs to my dad, but I'm not sure which one it is at this point. Okay. Safe landing there. And I got a right out of this too. I think that must be me taking off at this point. Okay, this is back in Melbourne, New Jersey. Donald's 6th birthday, we were home for that. And I think I'll just terminate it there. This is Ralph Lundry signing off.
Well, a very busy weather pattern again.